At the center of this is Rebecca Mercer.
Yeah,
wealthy donor. What is she trying to do here? What's she trying to accomplish?
Well, Rebecca Mercer is a wealthy donor. She is the daughter of Robert Mercer, who was an incredibly important backer of the Trump campaign, actually an early supporter of Ted Cruz, who then migrated over and one is the ones who saw the potential of the Trump candidacy. And what they're really trying to do is move on from a little bit of the huge failure that we see most prominently, obviously, the collapse of the American Health Care Act last Friday, and highlight some of the things that they're going to point to that Trump has actually done, whether that's job creation, obviously, really touting those
making
numbers
some claims,
in terms of and other sort of significant achievements in terms of talking about whether that's, improving security, talking about the wall, et cetera, and pointing to some of those early things that are casting him in a more positive light.
Positive light, a rosy spin on things. What do we know about how these donors feel about how these first several days have gone in this administration? Well,
it's interesting because when you talk about the healthcare debate and you talk about how that sort of panned out, that's one that donors, some of them are incredibly passionate about it, purely from an ideological spectrum of that the Obamacare had elements of it that were entitlements that really were going to long-term weren't good from an ideological standpoint in terms of limited government. But that being said, they're much more focused on the fights to come, and the main one they're focused on is obviously tax reform. Many of his biggest donors have a huge vested interest in bringing that corporate rate down, in reforming international tax, and reforming the individual tax rates that we also have, as well as infrastructure, as well as things that they see as more instrumental to helping their businesses achieve more earnings, frankly.
One of your staff writers wrote this piece, Josh Green. He quotes Emily Cornell, who heads up this organization that Rebecca Mercer is financing, and she said something interesting. She said, "We're here to promote success and hold accountable broken promises." How are they going to do that? How's this group going to do that?
Well, I think the thing is that what they want to point to is that people came out during the campaign and said this is what they were going to do. This is how they were going to help support Trump in particular. I mean, we are facing an extraordinary day today in U.S. politics where we see opening fighting. Donald Trump singling out the Freedom Caucus, this sort of far-right member of his own party, and calling on people to actually fight them as well as the Democrats in 2018. It's truly extraordinary times. We see tweets being exchanged back and forth, some of them calling Donald Trump a 5-year-old, members of that caucus singling him out. So he's really at war with his own party in both, a far-right faction of it. He's also some moderates desert him in the healthcare battle fight. What Rebecca Mercer and some of his donors, some of his biggest supporters are going to be trying to do is coalesce to actually get this legislative agenda through. And if they can't do legislative agenda they're going to be looking to call scalps on the table in 2018 and try and back candidates that are going to push forward the agenda they're so heavily vested in.
How much does his job approval rating matter right now? I look at the latest Gallup figures here. 38% approve of the job he's doing, 57% disapprove of that. Does he care about that? How's that affecting the way that he governs?
Let's put that number into a little bit of context. 38% job approval rating is about the same level that Richard Nixon had during the Watergate hearings. So we are not achieving a great approval rating early on in this presidency. But you're incredibly right. And how focused are people on this number right now? Not very much. We cannot underestimate how much of a setback the health care reform bill was. In 17 days, his signature promise, the signature promise of Paul Ryan, of so many Republicans, went down in flames. Now they're going for tax reform, a no less daunting challenge. We've got a debt, we've got a government funding issue that's coming next month. We have a huge battle to come over the wall. We've got Neil Gorsuch, his Supreme Court nominee, now with emboldened Democrats thinking they may block that as well, that he may not have the numbers in the Senate to get him through. So this is not a great start, and there's nothing that looks easier going forward. And if you're going to really put the party into flames early on with these huge epic public battles with some of your own party, that's also problematic. He's going to have to turn to Democrats for support somewhere to get his agenda through. But whether the American people are actually looking at those approval ratings or framing the administration in that context, frankly, I think they're just looking to see, can he get anything over the line at this point?